Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining another Lead Squared webinar. We're a couple of minutes late, but we had some technical glitches. I hope you understand. Thank you so much again for giving your time for this session. We are talking about InsurTech, the rise of it, and evolving technology and customer expectations. Some of the things that we would probably touch upon today while we go through the discussion are, of course, technology disruption, developing a digital strategy. We might touch upon artificial intelligence, data analytics, automation, then obviously operating at scale, what all goes and gets, what all is involved in that process, exploring various D2C digital channels, and what's next for InsurTech. So that's just a sneak peek of what will be covered in the discussion. With me, I have two speakers. Both are co-founders of their respective companies, and I will ask them to share a few lines about themselves. So let's go with Saurabh first, who is the co-founder and director of Discovery. Saurabh, please share a few lines about yourself, and of course, we all want to know more about Discovery.
Thank you, Shibani. First of all, thank you for having us, and thank you to Lead Square team to give us the opportunity here to come and talk about our thoughts around the industry segment at InsurTech. So really appreciate that. A few lines of introduction from my side. Um, all in all, have been a thorough insurance industry professional. Spent most of my career within the insurance industry, starting as early as 2004 and all the way through till now in different organizations, and most recently with this venture that we co-founded with my passionate co-founders at Discovery. So that's a bit about me. And I started my career working in the investment banking side. The first 5 years of my career was at investment banking at Ryan Anderson and EY, post which I moved out to the industry. And now the last stint was the entrepreneurial stint. So it's been an enriching journey nonetheless, and we'll talk more about that later. Thank you so much.
Sure. Thank you so much, Saurabh. Nilesh needs no introduction. If you've been an avid follower of the Lead Squared webinar series, then you would have heard him loads of times. So he is the co-founder and CEO of Lead Squared. Nilesh, if you could please share a few lines about yourself, anything interesting you want the audience to know.
Yeah, the reason we are delayed today because we were closing $1 million deal, and that's why it took 3-4 minutes additional for us to, the customer was not signing, so we were just pushing him to sign, and he just passed 3 p.m. So,
Well worth it.
but we'll make it worthwhile the wait we caused the audience. So for people who are new to the program, Nilesh Patel, I'm the founder and CEO of Lead Squared, and Lead Squared is in the business of helping improve the sales efficiency and drive drive more revenue for our customers across segments, and and that's what we do. And I'm glad to host Saurabh today along with Shibani for learning and talking more about InsurTech. But I'll really start, Saurabh, by really since you mentioned about the background in insurance, so you've been spent close to, if I say, 15 to 20 years in the insurance business, right? And you would have seen all aspects of insurance as a business. So love to hear two things, if you can share. One is, of course, some background on what insurance was, briefly in the historical context, and how it has sort of changed or transforming, right? And where did the whole concept of discovery came along, and what was the sort of reasons behind you all starting the plunge and finding this opportunity. So love to hear your story. Very excited to learn that.
Thanks, Nilesh. First of all, thank you for giving us the opportunity once again. Um, so, what I would want to start with here, Nilesh.
Saurabh, sorry to interrupt. You will have to be slightly louder. I think even some of the audience is finding you a little feeble.
Is it audible?
Yes.
Better now?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll try to be loud.
Yeah, if we can be just close, maybe that'll help, I think.
Sure. So, I'll just take a few steps back, and based on like you asked as the question. Originally, if you were to see insurance as an industry, where it started originally, at the fundamental level, insurance is a social good. That's how it started. It's about a community of people who pool their resources together to help the weakest member in their own in the hour of need, and that's where the original definition of insurance originated from in the early days. And the concept of insurance obviously is seeded with that thought. Uh, However, if that's the thought, this industry should have been the most loved industry. But it's actually 180 degrees away from that, right? And why so? And this is because the inherent complexities that it developed over a period of time, where organically it became a complex category to start with when it got formalized due to the way the products were structured. Hence, it led to becoming a more push and a sales heavy industry, and which with very little indifference towards the claims side of it as it evolved over the years, which was the moment of truth as far as this category is concerned, and which created a large trust deficit in the minds of the consumers. Now, this happened by design or not, but it evolved in this fashion, literally, right, over the years. And what really happened was, if you were to see, there was a survey done, which was more of a voice of a people kind of a survey, which spoke about what in their minds was a definition of insurance, and this happened, a few years back. So, what was the most voted definition of insurance as far as people was concerned? Was as follows, as opposed to where I started the whole conversation, right? So the definition stated, it is the most insurance is a business of selling people promises to pay later that are never fulfilled. That was the most popular definition that was voted for by the people, the voice of people, right? Now that's what I'm trying to bring back as how the journey evolved, literally, and why this whole distrust and the lacuna of trust that has been created mostly over a period of time. It was mostly because it insurance was bought because it was mandated, like motor insurances or any other categories in different parts of the world. There were complex terms and conditions associated with it. So one thing led to the other, and what we saw is that legacy insurers were good preservators. They were good underwriters, uh, but at the same time, when it came to the moment of truth, there was very little that was being done. That is when we're talking about the claims part of it. And that's where we were seeing the whole journey from legacy, I would say, by saying that legacy insurance companies that were well adapted for distribution, but slightly ill adapted for business transformation, and hence innovation, and hence the whole movement from policy centricity to a customer centricity as a business model. That was something that became very difficult for the players, and that's where you see the last few decades, as far as India is concerned, as well, post privatization of the sector. There's a lot of impetus with the private insurers coming into play, where they have been able to induct newer models of looking at distribution. The regulator has been very supportive of that. So there, if you were the dimensions, as I see, and I would want to bring this to the audience's notice, that if you have to think through this as the vertex that we need to hit, which will be where you're trying to cover up the trust deficit, or if you were to see it from the perspective of two sides or a magnetic pull that ideally a category should create for a customer, and why it's not seen as a pull category and a push category terminally. What we are trying to see is that over the recent past and the time going forward, we are going to, by these dimensions that are going to change, and we'll talk more about it, which will force it to move towards the vertex and hit the vertex, where it becomes a pull category as opposed to a push category. And how so is where all these forces are coming together, which is be it the regulator, as far as this is concerned, the underwriters, as far as insurance companies are concerned, and in various aspects, and we'll talk more about it in detail. Consumers are getting enabled and awarenesses are being built. And at the center of it are distributors, because then they're connecting all the dots here for the end consumers. So the entire ecosystem per se is coming beautifully together, and at the center of this there is this catalyzing effect of the insurtech players, which is across the value chain. If you were to see it, right at the manufacturers level, where insurtechs are playing a very very important role, enabling a lot of tools for them on underwriting, claims management, etc. And we'll talk more about that as well. At the distributors level, where it is right in the middle of the value chain, where distribution is being enabled in various ways, which was a missing gap, and that's where the value chain was broken. And at the consumers level, where consumer didn't have the power of being either deciding what, so first of all knowing what they want, deciding how to get it, and then to manage the whole process around once purchasing, how to use it. So all of that is coming well together as we speak. So it's interesting times, Nilesh, and
Yeah, I think great points you mentioned, and I think the start was, I believe, was a very good point on what is the meaning which people understand of insurance. And I think, to me, the awareness on the consumer side is also, a situation why people end up, buying, or it is under a push category, and per my, so far whatever I've understood about insurance, it doesn't seem like it's going to be a pull category in all product categories, right? I'm sure there are product categories where it will be a pull or regulator driven, and rightfully so, that it has to be there. But as you as you see this market evolving, and as you are participating in this market, from a discovery side, what prompted you to really look at this and say, look, this is what A is lacking, B is an opportunity to improve, or just a sheer like an entrepreneurial idea that एक बार तो करना ही है life में, like whatever what that was and how it sort of evolved, and love to hear that story.
There was a second part of your question, so I just kind of paused before that. But coming to that, so if you and I'm just kind of continuing from where I stopped. If you were to see the entire value chain, on manufacturing to so insurance companies to the consumers, and distributors right at the center of it, Discovery, the entire value chain is incomplete. It's broken in a way as far as how they talk to each other, and largely the deficiency of tech, which basically creates this broken experience for the entire value chain, was the largest missing gap. How this came about, and the reason I want to bring this out is, when you have a venture which is started with a bunch of co-founders who come together, it's like if you've seen the movie, right, each movie, if you were to bring it from a character side, the backdrop from that character would be very different. So there are three things that are happening leading to that juncture from each founder's mindset, right? And let me talk about my mindset out here, and how if we were to see the movie from my side, right? And I'll bring that out. This was so I spent almost over a decade and a half in the industry, and as a part of our my remit on and the portfolio that I was managing on bank assurance and alternate distribution, which basically is internationally known as the affinity distribution, and very prominent channel of distribution of insurance, was introduced into the country by the employer that I worked with as early as 2002. and we worked with most of the MNC banks at that point in time, as early as 2002, going on till the Citibanks, the Standard Chartered, ABN Amro's, and started distributing insurance things, which we call as the contextual insurance consumption story, sands of technology, right? Because technology in those days was sparse. What was still done was all backed by processes and product embedding, so on and so forth, right? Card embedding and so on and so forth. But the portfolio grew, and what we saw that as the
Saurabh, if I may interject, sorry, I didn't mean to. I think there is the audience is repeatedly saying that they are not able to hear and they want to really have a good time with the session. So they're saying we are happy to wait for a few minutes if we can get the audio right from Saurabh because they really want to hear you. So so we can do like in while the plane is flying, we can fix it.
let me try.
Yeah.
I don't know how I'm trying. I'm going to try and.
I think some suggestions are coming around.
Yeah, take off the earpods maybe and try.
I'll do that.
Get some of the audience on the show. Yeah, let's see what they have to offer. Now I've heard there enough of their chat history. We can. I think some of them are one guy logged out. You don't log out.
Is it audible?
Guys, you have to. So now the audience has to give a thumbs up now.
Is it audible? Is it better? I continue to speak. Let me know if it is audible.
So, okay, Prachi is saying no, Gaurav is saying no, Ash is saying no. So Rajkumar said yes. Yeah, thanks, Rajkumar.
Okay.
I think some people are saying it's audible, and I think many are saying it is not. So I'm not sure what's going on.
Yeah, I've got a lot of thumbs up coming up, but
everyone also if you can try use earphones because that makes a lot of difference actually over relying on a laptop speaker.
Yeah, we have to do the best in the current situation. So really appreciate if you all can also.
Sorry about this, guys, but I'm trying to speak up as much as possible.
I think so yes, now I'm getting some promising response.
Yeah,
Yes, sir, yes, Rajkumar, Gaurav, yes. Gaurav, so please continue.
Okay.
So let's go.
I think we have heard the audience. Now all of you should write only encouraging words there, okay? We have to let Saurabh go on to the and so Saurabh, sorry, really didn't mean to interject, but let's just. I didn't want to stop your train of thoughts.
Yeah, so I'll just quickly cover my thoughts here. The story was around the fact that there was distribution was picking up in the country, and it continued to evolve through a lot of banking and alternate channels outside of the agency and the traditional channels that were existing. And what we saw really out there was that over the years there was a fair amount of tech need, a unified solution at the distribution side of the value chain. So if you see the entire value chain, insurance, because of that whole lack of trust, has been piggybacking on assisted as in methodology of consumption, because it is a complicated category. Now, to solve for that, there was a lot of work that was needed to be done. One was to simplify and simplify the solutions and the underwriting that is done by the manufacturers. The second thing was to be able to provide the right platforms and right technology so that it enables an end-to-end fulfillment process via the distributors. And for that, there was a need of a solid solution. Now, as the regulators opened the environment up, banks were earlier allowed, and corporate agent was earlier allowed to work with one life, one health, and one general player. And the regulations opened up wider, and they allowed three partners to be, working with. Complications only increased for a large scale distributor. Now, in this scenario, what really happens is that because the suppliers out here are 9 different enterprises, and the distributor is basically seeing this as a third-party product, everybody is dropping this as a hot potato, saying that who's going to make this platform for us, which basically efficiently in a box solves for all the unified need for distribution at a scaled level, right? For a bank or any other NBFC or any operation that is looking at multi-partner, multi-product, and a multi-channel on the front end, where you're seeing DIY, where customers are using their net banking, or you're seeing your assisted channels where the RMs are using their pads and computers to do the fulfillment, or in the branches, or you're seeing embedded along with your attachments for the core CASA and loan products, where the product insurance is being embedded. But the tech, and a unified tech for that matter, which does all of that, was missing. And that's where the thought occurred to me as an epiphany around 2015, 2016. And it occurred, and when you're in a job, you're in a job, right? So you think about it, and it's like, yeah, this is a problem statement, but then the job takes over, so you continue doing your job. So you continue doing the job, but it kind of stayed in the mind somewhere, right? And that's what egged me on to think through the fact that there was this very inherent need for this to be solved from the distribution side, and it was not being done, at a unified level. So one of the reasons that led to this, if you may, Nilesh, and I'll like to kind of pause here because there are a bunch of other things that we need to talk about. So that's that, and on a holistic level, that's how the journey started, and we all came together. We are, the enterprise is founded by 4 co-founders, and I'll take a minute to talk about that. So it's two of us, myself and Suendu Prushti, both hail from the insurance domain. Suendu has worked for more than 2 decades within the domain, and two of our co-founders, Vidya Sridharan and Chiran Patil, both come from outside in perspective. So it's a balanced team, which brings in the inside out and outside in perspective to the enterprise, and ensuring that we are kind of taking care of all the needs. So Vidya is our CDO and leads the tech initiative entirely for the organization, and Chirant leads strategy, fundraising, and marketing outside many other things. So that's the team for us, and that's our mission is to and vision is to basically be the insurance infra providers for the B2B2C space, and enable the democratization of insurance at large. I'll stop at that. And
No, this is good. I mean, great. I'm glad you shared. I think usually stories come out of trenches, ideas come out of the things you have done, you've seen they don't exactly work. Or there are issues which can be resolved and make it better for everyone.
right.
So I think certainly, and I'm a big fan of sales in general, just as like what we do as a company.
Yep.
And distribution is a problem of interest to us as well. So I'm totally in sync with the way you have described and the opportunity to all of us. So if you see the ecosystem now, so there was a situation back, now there is a current way it is, and of course, in distribution side, there are a lot of online players and many other companies coming in. How do you see this space evolve in terms of business model? Of course, technology will have a role to play in disrupting the existing ways of working, in which you're also driving, as a discovery.
Right.
So, how do you see that sort of evolving, from here in the next few years? Given India is under-insured country, so of course the insurance space will grow. The government has allowed 75%, 74% investment in insurance, new insurance companies. I believe more players will come, right? But the market is large, it's growing. So what do you see the evolution on different aspect, the growth of the market, the growth of the new age players, the ability for the new age players to disrupt, and so love to hear your thoughts and how you see the market evolving.
Sure. So we can lens this through, 3-4 dimensions, and so one of the dimensions is customers, and I would want to focus there, because customers have been and will continue to be the disruptive force for insurance industry, and that's where what I mean hitting the vertex is all about, right? Today I'm trying to bring that again and again, is that if you have the repelling sides of the magnet, which is what's caused by the evolution of the industry so far, we need to flip the magnet over to get it attractive. So the idea is to kind of either look at it from that angle or looking at converging into the vertex, and customers sit at the vertex of this problem. So in the recent decades of social sciences, what I'm trying to bring back again from the customer's point of view, incentives matter to customers. Biases are matters to the customers. Conflict of interest matters to the customers, and all of if this exists in the minds of customer, it will manifest in the mind of customers. So the customers' needs and expectations are kind of have expanded exponentially in the past decade, and it's become like a need of immediacy, constant change, overwhelming choice, where loyalty is not valued as much. Industry has expanded beyond the core products and services. It is about it's just not the core product and services that can retain the customers anymore. So what you would need to do is much beyond. It's clear that the customer's needs and expectations will change and continue to do so, but it's going to only accelerate. And what are the factors that are kind of helping solve for this? One of the big factors that we can see today is the customer reach and sophistication of customer on service levels, the new value that the insurtech organizations are bringing in this space by not only on the distribution side, right, but also providing on the claim side, where we are seeing the newer technologies being deployed for claim inspections, instant claim inspections, real-time assessments being given back to the insurance company so that they could settle the cashless claims within hours as opposed to days. So ultimately, the insurtechs are kind of trying to now fill in those gaps or become the catalyst in the force across the value chain where these gaps are existing. So these chasms are being filled by insurtechs in different forms, and no one is cannibalizing anything. What we need to understand is that it is only catalyzing but not cannibalizing. Hence, you will always see an incremental growth coming through as we go along this journey. And uh, I'm bringing this back slightly in advance, but it's an insurtech revolution of sorts that that this space is under, and it's in slightly early days, first quartile of the four quartiles, I would say,
Okay.
but it's begun nonetheless, and it's going to only help evolve this industry in a very large space.
So the way it will evolve, as you described, so there are a couple of questions which come to my mind, and I'm also just a curious observer as a customer and as a buyer of these products. So do you see customers buying more and more products? Of course, that like one is to say that market will expand where more people will buy insurance, meaning the ones who have not bought will actually buy in two ways. One is either buying direct or as an embedded product in some other purchase they make, right? And second is would you sell more, like you'll collect more premium from the same person, like for
Right.
so which way or both is how the industry is going to grow, is how or what's the sort of outlook on that from an insurance industry standpoint?
Great question, Nilesh. We are transitioning, right? We are transitioning as an industry. It's an old industry. It's not a new industry. There is legacy to it, and we cannot cut off the legacy. That's what we need to be always keeping in mind. So all the players, be it the distributors or manufacturers who are there in the space, um, will transition from the legacy, and in doing so, there are various aspects of that will get transformed. So if you were to look at it from the product standpoint, your products will not flip over to simplified products that can be consumed in an embedded fashion overnight. And there will be always a need for a complex insurance solution till the time the consumer and the tools out here available to the consumers that help them purchase those complicated products very simply. So hence, what we are really trying to say is that complex products like a term life product, an endowment product, which needs an health insurance. Today, if I would ask anybody in the audience, uh, tell me about the health insurance product that you have purchased if you are insured, right? Whether it's from your insurer or from your own self, choice. Very few. If a few years earlier, it would have been, I would have said very, very clearly that, anybody would know about what they bought. But very few would actually know the actual coverages that they are aware. And because the products are structured in such a way, so it is complicated. So complicated products, till the time the industry settles to a point where will have a unified, simple solution that allows the consumer to consume it, understand it very simply.
But tell me one thing, as you describe this, what's the incentive for the industry to simplify it for the consumer? I don't see that.
So incentive for very good question again, because incentive would be that today your consumers are not buying it independently because they're finding it complicated, which
Okay.
means your penetration is impacted, because you're going cost of acquisition is impacted, because you need an assisted person to sell that first policy, and at the time of renewal also follow through. So your CAC on customer is always going to be slightly higher, as opposed to making it simple and self-consumable, which by itself, if you were to see, there is this whole dichotomy in the overall way the insurance is done, right? If you have a for-profit organization trying to underwrite and give you an insurance cover, and at the end of the day saying that I want to make profit or I should settle claims, you understand where I'm coming from,
Yeah.
right? So then there is only that much money available on the balance sheet.
Correct.
Claim settle करूं कि profit बनाऊं?
Correct. सही बात है ना?
Right now, hence you need to address your costs, and that's another area where the sooner we kind of transition to simpler solutions, it will help reduce that cost for the consumers.
Yeah, but I think maybe beyond a point, you just cannot simplify the product, right? I mean, that's unfortunately a reality as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it is true that you cannot oversimplify the product, but you definitely can make it simple enough to consume. Now, fortunately, we are at that level where consumers, by virtue of being digitally literate, if they are not digitally savvy, they are aware of how to use internet first insurance platforms, and hence, if they are digital first players, there are enough in many ways to be able to do away with the complexity of being able to give a complex solution out. The complexity was ridden with complexity because you had 20 questions to ask. There was mistrust in the fact that the customer would disclose efficiently or not, and hence one thing led to the other. Today, there are levers that can be put into place as far as customer data is concerned, as far as mechanism of getting that to be brought into one place, recommending it correctly. A right customer living in the right city, based on the geography, can be given the right solution at the right age group, so on and so forth. So all of those things are coming together. I mean, and it's a subject matter by itself. Good thing is there is enough focus that is being brought out to this space today.
Yeah, I think no doubt about that. I think there are a lot of new players, lots of capital is also coming in. I think, and new companies are also trying to figure out. I think on the distribution side, certainly there has been many new companies. Of course, the one player has the largest market share on the online side. We all know, and they're certainly leading the market from the digital side of things. I think while we talk digital, right, and digital has its, of course. As you look at the industry, and then I'll come to another question later, but just from a data standpoint, so that we all look at, and maybe you can qualify that data points with respect to product profile and type of products as well. But largely the digital sales, what percentage of that is insurance, like the digital insurance sales is like, what is that percentage of the total insurance market? Like, I mean, what's your view on that? What's the data saying?
Direct, yeah. So you can dissect that into two parts. There is assisted digital, and there will be what do you call as direct digital.
Okay.
And the reason I'm trying to break that out, because assisted digital is a larger component.
Okay.
Because
I would imagine that. Yeah, I would imagine that.
Because we are still transitioning, and we
Yes.
continue to transition, right? So if you were to see the larger, if the way see it is a very big bucket, which is still the legacy channels. Then there is an hybrid omni-channel approach where you're using digital plus physical, and then you have the completely digital. So these two buckets, if you were to put that together, that would account to overall around 12 to 15% of the industry.
Okay.
But if you were to kind of break it down on just direct digital, then that would come down to in very early single digits.
I see.
Right?
And how fast this is growing?
So the assisted digital is obviously going to grow and continues to grow faster, because assisted digital has outbound tele, has RM based, branch based, assisted economy, which is also growing. Because you see today there are various partners that we power within the hinterland and the tier 3, 4, 5 cities and towns, where you have the wallet companies and assisted commerce, kirana commerce companies that are kind of digitizing on financial inclusion side. That's an assisted commerce. Now today, if you were to give and take, you have around more than 500,000, more than 5 lakh plus efficient such outlets that would be distributing one financial services product or the other in one way or the other. And this is all assisted. So the assisted pie will only inflate for the next half a decade,
Okay.
till the time we are still able to push through what we call as the DIY digital in the what we call as on a very convenient, on tap, on demand, easy to consume, easy to understand insurance product, or via the embedded route, which we should talk about a little more. Uh, those are the areas that will drive the pie of pure digital
Got it.
as we go along.
So digital, as you said, would be, so embedded digital certainly makes a lot of sense, because maybe low value products sneaked into the bigger product. Customers get the benefit of it, like a travel product. Usually those are, and they're also received very well. And especially the travelers are knowledgeable about it. I mean, either they're bundled in the credit cards or some piece of that's how they are. But do you see this growing high double digit number, both assisted and DIY? Is it like, are we saying 50%? Are we saying 100%? Are we saying?
So there was some study done around this, and the study highlighted that on the if you were to see contextual and embedded insurance, the way of consuming insurance over the next 5 years, almost it would be 1 in every 3 legitimate insurance policies purchased by the end of that next 5 years would have touched the consumer via an contextual product or a service that the consumer would have bought. It would
Got
have
it.
not been a standalone
Product.
insurance interaction.
That's a huge shift.
Yes. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, so that's a huge shift then, right? Then that's a big shift which is coming in. Very interesting, very interesting. So now, which means that the place where the product is getting sold is going to become more important from a distribution side for all the insurance. It's already it is. Yeah, it's going to get more and more, because if you're booking a cab, you can buy the insurance there. If you're booking a flight, you can buy insurance there, and so it's going to be an additional component there.
Just to add to a point out there, right? We're talking about embedded, we're talking about contextual, and it's a widely spoken topic these days. It's hot, within the insurtech world as we speak, and you always have trending topics for the timelines, right? As we go along in each industry, I'm sure yours will have as well. So embedded insurance is very hot today.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, and everything embedded is very hard because, and why so? Because the category has been not originally a pull category, so no one wants to really give face time for it organically. Secondly, if there is a contextuality to a consumption, which by way of spending little time does the job of covering the risk in a fractional fashion, it takes care of some part of the risk. It is, I'm not going to say that it is going to be a holistic way of looking at ensuring one's risk, but for consumers and the mindset that we are looking at, we are the mindset is shifting from holistic planning to fractional approach in your lifestyle, right? We're not thinking, and on the back of the recent pandemic, unfortunately, that's kind of even pushed forward even more, because we are not thinking about 5 साल बाद में क्या होने. We're almost like a.
But let me ask you this. This is question comes to my mind, like because we started by the when we start the session, we said what is insurance, and there was a different answer you got from the consumers. But let's say how many people would know that they've actually bought an embedded product?
That's a good one. So 20 years back, or let's say even say 10 years, 15 years back, you would have, if you were a card user and you would have had cards across 5 different banks, you definitely would be sitting on your wallet with at least minimum of 1 crore of flight insurance, but you wouldn't be aware of it, right?
Yes.
That's the problem of embedded insurance. If it is not made aware and it's so deeply embedded that you cannot find out, it's so invisible that it's seen as a value when you read the terms and conditions, and if it is all marketed about it, but outside of it, it's not. But today, when you're paying on a regular basis, so when you're doing that activity and you're being charged for it, and very, very consciously, then the whole process of embedding could be different. So the embedding could be a process, embedding it could be a feature. So when it becomes a feature and it is basically an opt-in by virtue of a process, then it would be more successful.
Got it.
Opposed to embedded without an opt-in, where it is just intrinsically as a part of a feature, right? For example, an extended warranty.
Understood. No, you have a fair point. So let me, and I think this is in when you talk digital, there is this whole AI ML component, and a lot of that gets discussed, covered. What's the state of really the AI, and where it is, where it is experimental still, and where it is implemented well, and the customers. When I say customers, meaning the insurance companies or whoever is the value chain is benefiting from it, and what's the state of affairs? Would love to hear what you have observed, seen in the market.
So data analytics, big data, and machine learning and AI, right?
The entire bucket, yes.
Right. If you were to see it from the insurer's standpoint, a fair bunch of insurers are kind of using it in different ways. On the back of data, they're kind of using that for sharper underwriting. So based on purchase patterns and data query models that they're kind of building across channels, they're using that to feed it back into right pricing of solutions per se. So that's where it is being used efficiently and creating some model on recommendations. So those recommendation engines then would help, recommend insurance products for the consumers who would come and buy the wallet share that you were talking about. What's the number of policies per customer, and what's the right set of policies per customer that an insurer has been able to kind of bring back to that segment. So that's where it is being used efficiently. On the claims side, if you were to pivot it on the other side of the thing, a lot of machine learning has been done on the inspection, claims inspection and survey, where based on photographs, based on those kind of data sets, where picture data sets and other trends that can be uploaded, there is some real time assessment that can be done, and throwback of real time possible claim settlement values. So those have been implemented, and they're early stages, but some of these have been working better than the other experiments. So if you were to see wherever there is critical mass in terms of volume of business, those become obviously the areas of focus for manufacturers. Now, if you have to see that from the consumer standpoint, what how is this being used efficiently by consumers or the distributors for hyper targeting the consumers? So today, all all distribution players in we for example, we power almost around 55 plus different distribution players and partners. They hail from around 11 or 12 plus different industry segments. And within that, if you were to see, each industry segment caters to a certain cohort of customers, and by a virtue of certain number of certain type of channels, the engagements happen. So all those nuances need to be brought back as a part of the data to be able to bring back some right recommendation engines, which we are building at our end, and that's happening across the industry sector. So data now is being channeled very well to be able to kind of be more result oriented. And again, very early days, because the quality of data that we want to be able to bring back that results which will be fruitful will be it's going to be time consuming, right? So the raw material has to be of quality, and it needs to go through some process of being able to evolve and give you the right results. So nascent stages across the three uh, parts, but nonetheless, what we're seeing is that there is concerted effort and investments happening in this field, both organically by partner players or by partnering up with larger, organizations that are building this at an industry agnostic level. So
Got it. Got it. So before I go to questions, I do want to take an interesting insight from you, if you can share, because some of our audience would also be entrepreneurs and people who are trying to disrupt and put a dent in the universe. So if you were not doing discovery, what are the other ideas in insurance you would pursue? Like one or two of them, if you can share, which our audience can maybe look at it and say, oh wow, this could be an interesting opportunity, and they can build maybe a company or two out of that.
that's a tough one.
I know, I know.
There's a
You may reveal a secret or two,
No, there's
but
no secret. I mean, literally, frankly speaking, there's no secret. But the reason I'm saying it's tough is because there's no idea which is like Aladdin ka chirag. Literally,
correct.
everybody has kind of interfaced with the idea in some form or the other, and hence, and what's happened in the last 15 months, Nilesh, has that there's so much happened within the insurtech space. You almost have almost over 150 insurtech players, and within the distribution part of the value chain, you have players mushrooming every other week, right? So it's not that the uniqueness of idea is there is any paucity around it, but if there was one idea, possibly that could be looked at, ideally would be around hyper focused around claims. Not that it is fresh. There are various dimensions that players are working and looking at it from the holistic fashion. But um, if someone can address claims even 50% well for this market, it's going to be biggest idea ever on the
So
insurance.
you're saying claims as a claims process of it,
Giving
or
giving the power in the hands of the customer to be able to start their claims journey across the insurance universe and the policies they hold via just one tool in their hand, and that does the everything that it needs to do from
understood?
that
I
journey.
think that's definitely a very good thought and opportunity as well. Look, nothing is simple, right? I mean, if you want to build a business, then you have to. But I think this is a very good idea. at least it is a problem. I won't say an idea; it's a problem which needs to be addressed.
It is
So with that, I'll maybe take a pause, pick few questions here which I see in the panel, and will encourage people who are in the audience to post their questions to for Saurabh or me to answer. I think there's one from Yasir. How can InsurTech disrupt the distribution model? I think you did talk about that, but maybe if you'd like to share your perspective on the distribution of it, would love to get Yasir's question answered.
So InsurTech, so distribution has been the blue-eyed function of insurance industry. Again, coming back to sounding like a broken record, because it's a push industry. You have to sell. So distributors are the blue-eyed boys, and hence it always needed special attention by the manufacturers or by any player that's trying to solve for any problem within the insurance value chain. And today, if you are able to provide that tool that the distributor would need without cannibalizing their opportunity, where you're saying that I'm not going to take your customer away from you, I'm not going to take away the business that you're building, hence you're not threatened, and do that, and this is being done across different forms in the industry as we speak. That is what is going to disrupt, right? So which will allow them in a very low code, no code format, because every distributor, be it small micro distributor to a 2 agent kind of a shop to a 2,000 20,000 people organization, they all would need technology. So the simpler you make it for them to adopt and engage with that platform, that would help the whole process of distribution for them. And this has already begun across various ventures, and that's already enabling the ecosystem as we speak.
Got it. No, I think the distribution is an area which gets disrupted every 5 years. So if you want to see that, certainly in all businesses it is happening. So I would imagine. And there's a question from Aftab. How is Discovery different from any other digital insurance provider? From Elephant.in. So you did cover that, but for the benefit of the audience.
So business models vary, Aftab. At the back end, you might have the same tools that you would be using, right? But you would play it out differently in the market. So the business model, as far as Discovery is concerned, vis-a-vis in your question, the other player that you mentioned. So those players are looking at it from a B2B, and their end customers are largely the customers of the organizations that they service, which is basically the employees.
Okay.
So it's more like worksite plus kind of an engagement model. But for us, we enable organizations that talk to customers, not to their employees primarily. So we are agnostic to the fact that where these B2B partners of ours are going to use this platform. It enables employees capability, it enables the end customer distribution capability, it enables the channel capability to activate and service the channel by itself. So the whole idea is it's kind of over the top kind of an approach, which as an infra can plug in and power through all raw material that's needed, as opposed to be very selective about a segment.
Got it. Well, that takes care of a question from Aftab. This is from Gaurav Mishra. He's saying, unlike open banking, why is open insurance not that popular? Honestly, I've not heard that myself. First time so open banking, of course, has its own connotations, and market has talked about that. But what's the deal about open insurance? Like, what's your take on it?
Interesting that question comes up, but one of the original thought processes was also to look at addressing this category as an open insurance category, right? But the sector and segment is slightly different today, because of the regulatory framework. One can act as an open insurance or mimic the open banking platform, but will not be true to the cause in the fashion that open banking platform works. But if you were to kind of try and draw a parallel, right? What are the open banks doing really? They are becoming the forefront of which is interfacing with the end consumers, whether they're businesses or consumers. And at the back end, they're powering all the products and solutions via different banking partners, and hence masking that branding and relationship element via the interface that they own, or the properties that they own with the consumers. Now that, in a way, can be uh, become one of the plays that you would want to popularly call as open insurance, by virtue of a brand that is kind of, Policy Bazaar can do that. Now they're not positioning themselves to be that. They have taken a route of being an aggregator, and then doing a particular go to market on channel, saying that there is an inbound coming in from the e-com, and then telesales converting it. But outside of that, it's about the perception that you're creating in the minds of consumers. So, an open banking, ideally, I know it is not exactly the same, but the idea would be to be able to bring the right solution, right insurance product via the right engagement platform, without being concerned about who the end manufacturers are and how the claims will be served. So it has to be a unified experience, full end to end, which means insurance product to claims to management has to be owned by the front end, and everything else becomes powered at the back. Now, that in its true nature, by regulatory point of view, is a limited, prospect in the country. So that's why you've not seen it.
Got it. Got it. No, I think that's a good explanation of why you've not heard that word that often. And but it has started today. Maybe it'll get popular later.
Another in short, another step,
Yeah.
another step in
Another.
progress. I'm not.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's one more question before we conclude, is how much expensive coming into digital platform, and why only a few players in this digital landscape, which I don't think is true. I think there are a few scaled players, maybe I would say, but there are certainly many players trying to figure it out. So, but is it? So I think maybe I'll just twist the question a little bit,
Sure.
because the question is really how expensive it is, which means it's harder to build a business, right? In the insurtech and digital platforms, etc. So, what has been your experience in this regard, in terms of why it is harder for large, like many companies, to get funded, to build large businesses in digital platform side? Do you have a view on that? Love to hear.
Um, I would the way I would want to answer that question is, you know, um, there are two ingredients that make it difficult, per se. The entire landscape on the manufacturing side, which is where you're connecting the consumer and the distribution part of the value chain, is is fairly, a little bit of a chaotic state, because have various manufacturers, more than 50 manufacturers across life health in general. Their tech evolutionary status varies. It's asynchronous. If you have five players, you will not have consistent tech maturity across those five players, right? And in trying to build a unified platform that solves for this problem, is you need to have yeah, time on your hand, because there is, while it takes, so there is one of the major ingredients is time. Two, there is a fair amount of patience to be able to kind of build it more from a strong solution. So because it's in nascent stage in the manufacturing side, the stability will come over a period of time. So there is a fair amount of hand holding that needs to be done in the earlier phase. So even if you're trying to do it, it cannot be in half-hearted effort. It will be a constant effort for over a year and a half to be able to provide a very strong, robust, stable platform at the end of it. So there's a fair amount of effort that goes towards that, and money is not the only problem. Money is just one of the ingredients, but it's more about having the right talent and the right solution, and hence we are like trying to solve for that at Discovery by creating what we call as the insurance insurance company protocol interface, where it's a standardized interface for any insurance players to come and plug in their APIs. And once that's available and live, which is almost going to be near time, it becomes simpler for the distribution fraternity to plug into that interface, and then it kind of becomes like a seamless gateway of sorts. So we are solving for that, and those friction areas, and that's one of the major problem statements, if you may. It's not as exciting as it might look in the early days to go out and build that platform. So unless and until you're doing a very concentrated effort, if you're doing at a very scale level and level effort across different players, then it becomes even more onerous. So that's the challenge.
Yeah, no, you're right. I think the domain knowledge, and also I think one, and this is my thinking. I'm love to hear your thoughts. Like the number of players who will buy the product, like whatever you build, that also has to be a lot of them, right? Or they pay a lot of money. Like if both is not going to happen, then literally you will struggle, and nobody, like, it's a market is does not have or it's a global deal. Like you go and sell to all insurers across the world. I think otherwise it's going to be very, very hard to scale the business, and it'll look very expensive to really start a company, because it's not going to go anywhere. It's not going to find many customers, etc. Is that maybe another way to look at it?
I would flip it the other way around, because we are distributor facing, not the insurer facing. So insurers are suppliers for us; they don't pay a dime to us at this point in time. The money that or the monetization model comes from the distribution fraternity. So the remuneration and financial considerations are set out with our distributors based on what they would want to plug in. So if you have a particular module that you're interested in, you just want to do motor and health, you don't want to do life, you want to do only embedded, you want to do all of it, you want to do an DIY channel, you want to do an assisted channel, all those kind of nuances come into play, and you create your own kit that you would want, and you're there to use it to build your business. So that's where we're headed, and hence the distributors become our customers in this space. And distributors are large, right? You're seeing a greenfield interest in this category on the back of the recent pandemic. So that's where we are seeing what we call as the double tailwind, because digitization is imperative. Insurance has become topical. Awareness has come through on the back of ailments and hospitalizations and mortality. So it is not a choice anymore, and that's pushing the converging demand on distributors to be able to adopt this fast. So
Got it.
which is leading to a market creation on our.
So yeah, I think identifying areas where there are enough buyers, or the buyers have the propensity to, sort of absorb the I won't say cost, but the there is they believe that spending money is going to help them.
Correct.
I think would really drive the whole
Equation.
adoption. It'll drive it.
So that's what we've done over the last 3.5 years, Nilesh. Exactly the same thing. Indian market is the best market to learn. If you succeed here, probably I guess you are well poised to at least not make any foolish mistakes in any other market, and that's what I believe.
Yeah, it's a hard market, no doubt.
So,
Well, I think I really enjoyed having the conversation today. Really appreciate you coming out and really sharing your story and the whole background about the insurance space. Love to catch up with you in person sometime. That always is always an opportunity to know you better. So thank you so much for coming down here. I don't see any other questions here. Any final comments from you before we close?
No, thank you so much. Again, this has been a very interesting conversation, Nilesh. Thanks for making it very interesting, and bringing out small stories that otherwise wouldn't have. Uh, Love to interact further, and thank you for your questions, team, and thanks for participating and coming out there towards the end of the week. So appreciate that from all the audience that engaged and participated in this event. Hope I was able to bring some thought-provoking insights, if not any other thing.
Yeah. No, I think it was interesting. It was well received. The people were there towards the end. So that's good. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Saurabh, and thank you, audience, for being patient with us today. And really appreciate your time. And
Sorry about the tech in all of this while we're talking tech. So
yes. Well, it happens sometimes. I think it's not. We go through this once in a while. So people are, I believe, very, very understanding. So awesome. Thank you, Saurabh, and have a good evening.
yeah, like have a nice weekend, guys.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye bye.